Thank you one and all. I'd like to, I suppose before I do start, I'd like to acknowledge the Indigenous people of Malaysia and pay my respects to the elders, both past and present. I think it's important to acknowledge Indigenous people right across the world because I am now coming into their territory and partaking my artistic knowledge upon audiences that do attend. But long before white men came to the islands, the islanders were the Vikings of the Torres Strait, a narrow waterway between the land masses of Zay Dagam Dade, or Australia in the south, and Nage Dagam Dade, Papua New Guinea in the north, where the coral and Arafura seas meet in one of the most fragile and intricate waterways in the world. Situated in a triangular sea span of about 8,000 square kilometres, this home lays the foundation for a lot of Torres Strait culture and is literally scattered by hundreds and hundreds of small islands, islets, coral caves, atolls, reefs and sandbanks. Here, the islanders go about their everyday lives with little notice from the outside world. And yet, it is here also that in 1992, an individual by the name of Eddie Koiki-Mabo changed the character of Australian law by refusing to recognise and challenge Australia's highest court the legal concept of terra nullius, or empty land. Torres Strait Islanders stand in a peculiar geographical position. To many, islanders are an in-between people, not quite Melanesian nor Aboriginal, but people squeezed in between those two worlds. The Torres Strait itself is basically broken up into 5 regions: Eastern Islands, Western Islands, Top Western, Lower Western, and Central, each with its own unique environment. The Eastern Islands themselves are remnants of volcanic activity in a lush with vegetation, and you could literally drop a small seed in the dirt and springs up just like Jack and Beanstalk. The Western Islands themselves are an extension of the Great Dividing Range that runs along the east coast of Queensland. The Central Islands are built up over many centuries and cut coral atolls and sandbars and things like that. And then the Top Western Islands are actually alluvial deposits from the Fly River, one of the main river systems that runs south through Papua New Guinea, and is surrounded by extensive mangrove systems. So if you sort of picture a lot of these little islands, they do offer their own unique environments, which then filter down into a lot of the people, the lifestyle, and cultures scattered right across the Torres Strait. And as you can see, this is a typical view of the islands themselves, of the Torres Strait, a lush setting, sort of squeezed in between those two great land masses. But it is one of the most treacherous sort of waterways in the world. And navigating this this particular area is often a nightmare if you do not know where all the sandbars and reefs and things are actually scattered. This is an image of Weyburn, or my home island of Thursday Island. It's the most, I suppose, populated islands out of the entire Torres Strait. And this is the island where all government, administrative sort of purposes happen and then sort of outsourced to all the other outer islands. A general cast net scene. This one actually out on Murray Island, which is only a stone's throw away from the tip of the Great Barrier Reef. A typical wharf scene up in the Torres Straits as well. And the wharves themselves, as you all notice from the principal stairs, play an important part to a lot of the people up in the Torres Straits. You know, they're both a departure point for the island, as well as, you know, an incoming port for the island as well. This is generally where, you know, all the barges will pull up to deliver supplies and, you know, things like that to the islands. And generally, you know, sort of surrounded by all these, you know, sort of manner of boats, usually aluminium dinghies, but, you know, you'll often get longboats, wooden longboats from Papua New Guinea as well that, you know, are sort of scattered throughout the strait as well. Particular artisan from the Torres Straits, and this gentleman here is James Esserly. And James Esserly grew up on Badu Island, which is about halfway across the Torres Straits. And, you know, as a young child, he was always, he used to always see a lot of the fighter planes flying overhead. And so he then started to incorporate a lot of these, you know, early childhood experiences into a lot of his dance performance. Because that dance performance is one of the most recognisable forms of Torres Strait cultural expression. A typical dance troupe, this one actually at the Torres Strait Festival many years ago. But as you can see, the use of elaborate feathered headdresses, as well as, you know, other dance paraphernalia that also adorn the body as well. The zazi skirt, the murrups and things that actually are wristbands for the dancers as well. But, you know, the Torres Straits themselves have an artistic, you know, sort of expression or, you know, sort of period that dates back many, many thousand years, back to, you know, back before, you know, the dawn of time. Back then, a lot of the, I suppose, artistic expression went into the construction of elaborate turtle shell masks and other dance paraphernalia that all sort of paid homage to a lot of the Torres Strait Island gods and deities. Again, another fabulous turtle shell mask that was only used in ceremonial purposes. This particular one here was actually used in a death performance dance. And as you can see, there are intricate, very intricate, you know, sort of line work that adorn both, you know, sort of the chin, around the mouth, as well as across the forehead there. And a lot of these marks, a lot of these traditional marks here is, I suppose, the basis for a lot of my printmaking, as well as, you know, a lot of my colleague Torres Strait printmakers as well. Use of wooden masks, again, to represent, I suppose, the use of, you know, this particular mask here, this wooden mask was actually used in harvest ceremonies up on Saibai Island. So the dancer himself would actually wear this mask and perform secret and sacred dances to bring about good crop yields for the community. Because, you know, living in that subsistence sort of lifestyle, the crops, the provision of, you know, sort of nature to supply food and sustenance to communities was vital. I suppose a whole aspect of life to sustain a lot of these communities. There were a lot of, I suppose, charms for everyday purposes throughout life. This particular charm here was actually a canoe prow. And this canoe prow, when put on the fronts of canoes, aided with the hunting of the sea turtle. Headdresses. And this particular version here came all the way from Cambridge back to Australia for a large exhibition that I co-curated for the Cairns Regional Gallery. An exhibition called Aidan Pasim, Torres Strait Art, which was the first major touring exhibition of contemporary and traditional culture from the Torres Straits. And actually developing that show for me was, I suppose, one of the catalysts for me, sort of actually residing on a lot of these stage and national visual arts boards. Because at the time of developing that show, particularly, the culture of the Torres Straits was unfortunately not as well known as mainland Aboriginal.